protecting our liberty.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Your Right to Know, brought to you by the Fitchburg Republican City Committee, coming from the Workers Credit Union studios here at FATV. Tonight, we're going to be having a very interesting discussion in regard to Aaron Packard, official Republican candidate for a state representative for the 3rd Worcester District. Good afternoon. How are you doing today, Aaron?
Pretty good, Andrew. Thank you for having me.
No, it's an honor. Would you please introduce yourself to our audience?
All right, my pleasure. My name is Aaron Packard, and I am an official candidate for state rep here at Fitchburg, 3rd Worcester District. I was originally born in Worcester, Massachusetts. I've been in Worcester County all my life, except for a brief hiatus down south while I was in the United States Army. Yeah.
And so you were in the Army. Give us a little bit of information about your service record.
Yeah, no problem. I had, upon graduation from high school, I had gone to the recruiter center, the Marines. That's what I had always wanted to do, is be a Marine. Well, I walked into the recruiter's office, everything was great, and then we decided on my 18th birthday, I would go down to City Hall and grab my birth certificate and run next door and sign up, and delayed entry right after graduation, I'd go in. So I went home, as I told my grandparents, that's where I was staying with my dad and not, and I told Grandma that I wanted to join the Marines, and oh heavens no, that you don't need that. And I didn't understand at the time why. About a day later, she informed me that I had a financial aid to go to college. So okay, since I'm still in school mode, I'll go. The day after that, the recruiter called and said, hey, what happened to you? I was like, well, I explained to him what happened. I got financial aid and I'm still in school mode. I might as well, continue with the education that's available. Well, the Marines will pay for you. I was like, yeah, I understand that after I've done my time. Well, this is what threw it off. Oh, you're gonna be a loser all your life, take 1 step forward and 2 steps back. Well, being a young, uninformed 18-year-old punk kid, which I was, I slammed the phone down, and that was the end of the Marines. So I went to college. During that year, I was still in my own little world, and I still wanted to serve my country. So during winter break, I went to the recruiter, Army. I walked right in. I said, I want regular active duty Army. That was the easiest sign he had to do, because I knew exactly what I wanted, and that was my start point.
And the rest is history, as they say.
Yeah, pretty much.
And you wound up as airborne.
Airborne.
According to you.
Yes, I did. I first went into basic training at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. I went on to Quartermaster's Supply in Fort Lee, Virginia for my tech school, which is both, as you know, supply and that accounts for being armor as well. Every handheld infantry weapon you could possibly imagine, I assembled, disassembled, learned how to clean, learned how to itemize, take parts of this, everything that encompassed that. Upon being stationed in Georgia, Signal Company, it was a student training area. I worked in an S4. I was responsible for an entire battalion's supply, their feeder reports, which is how many soldiers are dining in the facility every given day, what they need for supplies, etc. I got bored sitting behind the desk handing out toilet paper. In a nutshell, I was very gung-ho, fight the communists type of mindset. I grew up in the Reagan era. If I was able to vote back then, I would have voted for Ronald Reagan. Mm-hmm. So I was able to change my MOS, the military occupational service skill. I wanted airborne infantry, and that's what I did. I earned my blue cord, Brotherhood of the Bayonet, and airborne I may not be on active duty status, but I will always be airborne.
I think
Excellent.
it's interesting, having stood out with you as we've been collecting signatures for the last number of weeks, your respect for everyone that comes through that has any emblem of having been in the military, be it a cap or a jacket or anything like that. You're just always right there, and you've developed such a wonderful rapport with all of these people. It's a kind of an honor to see, because we don't see a lot of that any longer.
You really don't. You really don't. You see, you know. I mean, I like you. You know, I always wanted to go into the Marines, but when it came my turn to sign up, oh no, you have financial aid, and I wound up being an attorney instead. So, you know, so tell us a little bit about your background, your work background.
Oh, I have quite the eclectic work background. I've worn many hats. The great thing about America is it's the absolute land of opportunity. It really is. It's life, liberty, and the pursuit of whatever is going to make you happy. And I've tried everything. I just found that things are too interesting, too exciting to stay in one place, treading water, it just moaning, groaning, griping, and complaining about one particular skill. When I left the Army, I had desires to cultivate my artistic background and my keen eye of paying attention to detail. Since I learned how to give my fellow soldiers high and tights, which are buzz cuts, just by observing the post barbers do it, I learned how to do it. I ended up becoming the unofficial barracks barber. My company CO one day called me to the carpet. I thought I was doomed because you weren't supposed to give haircuts in the barracks. Well, he said to report to his office at one particular time. I showed up with my gear. He was sitting behind his desk with just a t-shirt on, and he asked me, "Do you know how to do a low reg, soldier?" And I just blossomed from there. So when I got out of the service, I went to hairstyling school, full-blown cosmetology, you name it, hair, nails, skin. But I concentrated on hair. That was my thing. I love symmetry and enhancing the features that are there, what God gave us, you know. From there, just my customer service skills throughout life, from supplying the service, behind the chair as a hairstylist, behind the counter of retail, serving tables as in a restaurant, where I currently have been in the restaurant service industry now for about 8 years. It's easy to approach people because I treat them how I would want to be treated. What would you like? What can I get for you? There's a saying, the customer is always right. Well, that's not exactly true, but you do have to put up with the things that irritate you. And that's what provides good customer service, is understanding and give them what they're asking for. Cumulative, what would you like? You know, good, immediate service.
So this is your first run for political office.
Yes, it is.
What made you decide to take this on as state rep?
Whew. Well, that opens up an entire can of worms. Well, I have to start from the beginning. July 13th, 2011, I was a hairstylist working at a salon in Maynard, Massachusetts, if anybody's familiar. I had a customer in my chair. They said they need the meter fed. I ran outside. That's all I remember. I was told that I had run out into traffic crossing the street without looking one way, and I was hit by a truck. I landed head first on the pavement and suffered a life-changing brain injury. I woke up the next day just rebooted, if you will. So from that point on, for the past 10 years, I've been slowly learning to re-socialize. Those were the downfalls. All the cognitive skills were there. It's just re-socializing, wondering how I felt, what people felt, watching, observing, making sure that I knew. Well, all the politics that were on TV, I started questioning, very much so. I wasn't able to vote up until 2020 because of I was changing a resident location or whatnot. What started me off was the pandemic. That's why I wanted to run. I just knew something wasn't right. Yes, it happened, but it was politicized beyond belief. I wanted to run because I noticed that way too many people say and not do. They don't mean what they say. In basic, just telling you what you want to hear instead of saying the truth. And my observation of being in Fitchburg the past 5 years, a lot of great public shots of this person doing one thing and this person doing another, but voting records show they've been doing the complete opposite of what's in the best interest of all of us in the public.
Mm-hmm. The photo ops we'll oftentimes see at this time when we start getting into political season. Everyone wants to take their opportunity to get their pictures taken, shaking hands and kissing babies. But it's what they do in the other 365 days of the year that matters.
Right.
Can I ask you, so when you look, now you've had 2 years, like you said, which we all had. 2 years we lived with COVID, we lived in front of our TV sets just to get news and our reading in newspapers and things like that because we couldn't go too many places. And we were able to really get up close and personal with some of the problems that are not just going on in the federal level in our country, but certainly within our state also.
Oh yes, definitely our state.
And now you've spent the last 5 weeks out meeting and greeting people as you've been going around getting signatures and just talking up with people what people's feelings are. What do you think the biggest issues are that we face in your precinct B of Lunenburg and all of Fitchburg? What is the one or two or three problems that just kept coming up?
My top three that I've observed day in and day out have been the rights of our parents, the parents of all the children in every school system, the rights of the parents to say how their child should be educated, and the safety measures that are in place. There's way too many predatory groomers, critical race theory, it just the falling away of American values, American history, and what we were built on, the foundation, the Constitution of the United States that got its origin here in Massachusetts, right down the road from us. You know, I have a family lineage. Packard started here back in the Plymouth Plantation. And yes, a descendant of mine was a captain in the militia, Isaac Packard. Mm-hmm. And those foundations, those ideals stayed with me even after brain injury. They just are here. How can you get
They're
away
intrinsic.
from? They are very intrinsic. How would you get away from not wanting to?
So what else?
Support that.
Now for our viewers, just to let you all know, you are the father of three,
Yes.
and you're a grandfather.
Yes, I am.
So you have, I like to say you have skin in the game. You are concerned about
very
what's
concerned.
happening with children in school. So, and parental rights, certainly. So what are others?
Others would be absolutely, of course, fixing our roads. Title 90, as a lot of people know it. I just learned that that word about a year ago. I'm like, Title 90, what's that? You know, and it was explained to me, you know, that's the funding that goes for repairing our roads. There is an insurmountable surplus. It's just crazy how much are in the coffers for this state that can be provided for fixing the roads. And then the other issue is allowing the mass fluidity of funds going to support illegal immigrants and just social disarray. It's too much supporting of the handouts versus giving people resources to get on their feet and to get them into working at something that they enjoy doing. Yeah.
So I just want to go back to the Chapter 90 funding, because let's face it, everybody's complaints about the roads. It is a huge topic, and I hear it a lot as a local elected official. But you as a state candidate, it's extremely important for you because that's where the funds are. Mm-hmm. The funds are with the state. There are people that say that, oh, well, why don't you use city funding to repair the roads? Well, it's almost $1 million a mile.
Right.
And we haven't had an increase in our Chapter 90 funding for almost 15 years now. Meanwhile, there's been money flowing in from Boston, but Boston keeps that money.
Right.
It doesn't come back out. So that's something that you would work on, trying to get more money out here.
I would definitely work on that. And a prime example of revenue available, for instance, is the cannabis revenue. Mm-hmm. You're either for it or against it, but being that it's legal here in Massachusetts, they have collected, I believe, $3 billion, if I read correctly, as of last week, $3 billion revenue, which is a million plus is available. The tax, okay. Do you still want your citizens being able to make it to the cannabis shop to purchase it? Fix the road. I'm driving an inspected vehicle that has to be safe for the road, but the road's not safe for my car. It's an oxymoron.
Yeah. Interesting way of putting it.
You're absolutely right.
I always feel like driving over the roads of Fitchburg is like an automatic defibrillator.
My street alone, I call it Swiss Cheese Road.
Yeah.
So how would you characterize the current status of effectiveness of our elected officials in Boston?
No effectiveness. I just have zero faith in what I've seen. I have faith in a lot of the candidates that are stepping up to help, to want to fix what's going on in Beacon Hill. I've met tremendous candidates, including the governor-to-be, and I'm predicting that, the governor-to-be.
And that candidate is Jeff Deal,
Jeff
of course.
Deal, absolutely. And somebody asked me, oh, really? What do you think he'll win by? I'm like, 54%. That's what he's going to take. It's just a number that just came to me, but I support him all the way.
It's very interesting, again, being out with Aaron so much collecting signatures, and people come up, they'll see us, and they'll say, what party? And, in this day and age, after all we've lived through after January 6th of last year, where you're almost afraid to say what party, but proudly I'll stand up and say, well, the Republican Party. And they will say, as you know, and as you've seen, they want to shake your hand, thank you for running, and they grab the pen and they say, where do I sign and how many times do you need a signature?
Yeah, there was a gentleman that came up and I said, oh, hi, I'm collecting signatures for candidates and da-da-da-da. And he asked, Democrat or Republican? I said, oh, these are all Republican candidates that I have here on my clipboard. Well, gosh, why didn't you start off with that in the first place? You sold.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of that in this coming election.
Even the conservative Democrats of old that still believe in the JFK era, the return to Camelot. Yeah. Come on out, vote for the Republicans. We're here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're representing
conservative values.
them more than the progressive.
Oh,
and
because the Democratic Party has just gone so far left. It's left all the conservative Democrats, the blue dog Democrats is what they were used to be referred to, or the Kennedy Democrats, the Reagan Democrats. They were all there, and you're going to see that in the next coming years.
Senator Manchin from West Virginia, prime example of a old school conservative Democrat trying to fight for the right things. He's not giving in.
And I think what you've expressed very well, and what I've heard being with you, is that it's funding, and we know we have limited funding, and yet so much of it is going to things that aren't enhancing your life, my life, and our viewers' lives. It's going to other issues like healthcare, education, multicultural training of people coming across the border illegally and not getting signature and not going for citizenship the right way.
Yeah. In fact, I was listening to the radio this morning, as a matter of fact, and there's evidence that's coming out that all of this COVID-19 funding that came from the federal government is all being geared towards the critical race theory education.
Unfortunately, money is screaming right now.
Aaron,
money talks, no, it screams.
What do you stand for? So if people come up to you, which they have, and they'll say, "Oh, what, you want me to sign your paper? What do you stand for?" What do you say?
I stand for exactly what our country was founded on, the principles, the United States Constitution. I am a constitutional patriot. That's what I say to people when they come up. Oh, what are you? I'm a man standing up because nobody else wants to. 2, I am a constitutional patriot.
Mr. Smith goes to Washington.
There you go.
How do you think you will get along in Boston when you go? And the reality is that you will be a minority. How do you see yourself working to achieve successes as a Republican, as a minority going into Beacon Hill?
Well, it will definitely be not my first time being a minority. And people look at, straight white male. Really? You're a minority? I grew up in the hood and down beautiful downtown Worcester, Great Brook Valley. That had the biggest DEA drug bust in the mid-'80s was in that projects. I learned how to light dumpsters on fire at 4 years old. So how do you be the minority? Well, you listen to try to understand where they're coming from. This whole democratic process is supposed to be both sides communicating to come to a mutual agreement that's beneficial to us all. How am I going to react? Well, I'm still going to maintain my integrity and listen to you. Listen to you. Listen to each and every one of the people out here who vote for me to be there on Beacon Hill. That's what representative means. I'm representing you. If it comes up to a vote, yes or no, if the constituents say no, guess what I'm doing? No. Mm-hmm. That's all I can do is maintain my integrity and support the governor in what his values are.
Okay. And so are there any special issues you'd like to address when you were elected?
There's way too many to list, right? There's special. Yes. There is one special issue, and that is the assault and just children's welfare. Mm-hmm. And I'm not talking about protective services because they don't do the right things all the time. I'm talking about the grooming, the trafficking, the abuse, the pedophilia. Those are huge, huge, not just here in the state, but across the country. Mm-hmm. It really is a terrible thing. My heart aches every time I see a child hurting. For whatever adult reason is or the ideology is, it's the children need our help.
Yeah. Well, Aaron, thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Oh, thank you very much.
I think
I
we're
hope
running.
I didn't ramble on
No,
too long.
this was great.
I like to tell stories.
I think you told people exactly what you stand for, what you intend to do when you go to Boston, and we know you're going to get there.
Oh, thank
and
you.
thank you for being with us.
Yes, I'm excited to get to Boston to turn in all of the verified signatures that I was able to accumulate to put me official.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching Your Right to Know and sitting in with us tonight with the FRCC. Remember that your local city and town Republican committee is your only grassroots organization that supports and holds dear your constitutional rights and your liberty. And we encourage you to join us with the FRCC. We meet once a month. The British American Club, the second Thursday of every month at 7 p.m. And we want you to join us. Why? Because we believe the GOP stands for growth, opportunity, and prosperity for all people. And we always stand for freedom. And speaking of freedom, we thank Worcester Workers Credit Union for allowing us to be in the studio tonight, because they also stand for freedom of speech, for allowing us to be on air. Thank you very much. Good night.